Well, welcome back to our Black Friday edition of 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse. I'm staying in today. I advise everybody else to do that because you'd have to be a proctologist to drive out there today with all the assholes on the road. I don't know, there's people still fucking pitch tents 3 days or 3 weeks before the big sale at Walmart and Best Buys and sleep in the fucking parking lot and shit because they did that maybe before the pandemic. Oh, I don't know what the deal is today, but I'm sure later on the news we'll hear about people being trampled and, a rush to get in for the 3 fucking items that they only had 3 of, and who's going to get shot in Texas because they jumped the line or something like that. So we can look forward to all that carnage for tonight's news, boys and girls. But I don't know what anybody else did yesterday, but I spent the day watching some old, I said King Kong, Son of Kong, Mighty Joe Young, Godzilla. And that sort of triggered a memory because, guys my age, a little bit younger, a little bit older, all grew up on the same thing on TV. Three Stooges, Abbott Costello, Laurel and Hardy, and one group that never gets mentioned, the Bowery Boys. And the Bowery Boys were all over the place. I mean, they were in 90 features from 1937 up until the late 50s. And they were originally a play in New York called Dead End, and a casting call was put out. Bernard Gorcey was Leo Gorcey's father. David Gorcey was an actor, so was Bernard. Leo was a plumber. David Gorcey was cast in this play, Dead End. I forget what happened. I guess when the lead got sick and they had a casting call, and Leo, conveniently that day, got fired from being a plumber, came down and sort of aced the role, and it became his. So they did the play, and then they went out to Hollywood. And they shot the film Dead End there. Well, you got 6 kids from New York. The original Dead End kids, which were Leo Gorcey, Hunts Hall, Billy Hallup, Bobby Jordan, Gabriel Dell, and Bernard Punsley. And you bring a bunch of New York kids out, put them in Hollywood, and they basically went berserk. They were fucking rude, rambunctious, throwing firecrackers into the stars' dressing rooms, being complete fucking jerks in general. So they were fired. Then the picture got released. Well, when the picture got released, they had to rehire them again. And sort of had the same problem. So they'd get footballed from studio to studio in the early days. They'd either be the Dead End kids, or the East Side kids, or the Little Tough Guys, depending on what studio had them. They went to Universal, and there they met comedy legend Shemp Howard, who mentored them in the art of comedy. And in an interview with Hunts Hall, Hunts had said that Shemp was like a father figure to him and taught him a lot about comedy. So they were bouncing around here and there, but still they were getting in trouble. They were disrespectful of the stars, and one star, however, wasn't going to put up with their shit, and that was James Cagney in Angels with Dirty Faces. And if you remember the scene where he basically slaps the piss out of Leo Gorcey's face in one scene, that was real. They said that Cagney had no problem slapping the piss out of these kids if they disrespected him or anybody else around him. So that was how that went down. And, they did a whole bunch of stuff. And at that point, Muggs's name was, what the hell was he? He was, Terrence Mahoney, I believe? No, McGinnis. I'm sorry. I'm fucking this whole thing up. He was, Elleberry, it came out Elleberry McGinnis, Muggs McGinnis, and Hunts Hall was Glimpy. The others used their real names like Gabe, Bobby, whatever. So that's how that went down. When they left, they were hired by Sam Katzman from Monogram Pictures to do a series called The Bowery Boys. And that started in 1946, and their names were changed. Leo Gorcey's name was changed to Terrace Aloysius Mahoney, a.k.a. Slip Mahoney. And Hunts Hall his name was changed to Horace Debussy Jones, a.k.a. Satch. So that was the first film, Live Wires, in 1946. They had previously been in another Monogram film with Bela Lugosi. Actually, they starred with Bela Lugosi in 2 Monogram films. Spooks Run Wild in 1941 and Ghosts on the Loose a few years later during World War II, where basically Lugosi and company were Nazis. At that time, they had brought in some new members. They had brought in Billy Benedict, who had already had a career of playing newsboys and errand boys in films as Whitey, and Sunshine Sammy Morrison, the only black member of the group, who would be Scruno. And there's one scene in Spooks Run Wild where Scruno is dusting what he thinks is the portrait of Lugosi, and Lugosi sneezes, but the gag is when he sneezes, he goes, "Ah, shit!" And William Bodine never cut it out, so if you listen closely, you can say Lugosi said, "Ah, shit." In an interview with Huntz Hall, he was asked about, how it was working with Lugosi, and Hunt said Lugosi was one of the funniest guys he ever met. And the interviewer goes, "Well, how so?" And he goes, "Well, we were on the Monogram lot, and Bella was shooting. Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn gorilla with Petrillo and Mitchell, the Martin Lewis imitators. And Hunt said he decided to go over and say hello. So he went over to Bella's dressing room, and Bella looked up. "Hunt's my boy. How you doing?" "Ah, great, Bella. Bella, how you doing? How's it working with the boys?" "They are scum," Bella shot back. So I don't know what the deal was. I know that Jerry Lewis wasn't too fond of Petrillo and Mitchell, but it seems like Dean Martin gave him a pass. So anyway, they were doing, the evolution was, they were kids in the early movies, they were teenagers in the later movies, and now in the Monogram stuff, they're young adults that are hanging out in a sweet shop owned by Louis Dombrowski, played by Leo Gorcey's father, Bernard Gorcey. And there's all kinds of crazy shit going with that. But what happened was, all of a sudden, Leo Gorcey's name was Leo Gorcey and the Bowery Boys. Leo positioned himself like that. They said sometimes he was an asshole on the set, sometimes he'd steal other people's jokes, whatever, but he prevailed. Unfortunately, Bernard Gorcey was killed in an automobile accident. I think he was like 67, and that sent Leo into a downward spiral because he was already an alcoholic and a bad one, and that just pushed him right over the edge. His last Bowery Boys film would have been Smashing Las Vegas in 1956, where he was fired for being drunk. The picture sort of tanked, and according to what I heard, Huntz Hall got him on the side and asked him to please sober up so they could continue the series, but that wasn't going to be because Leo was completely depressed and went on a complete downward spiral. He did show up as one of the cab drivers in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World in the late 60s. Unfortunately, he passed away at a very young age at 52. The other guys, well, Huntz Hall, I think he took points on a lot of these pictures and was pretty well off. I remember that he appeared in a Fred Olen Ray film, Cyclone, before he died. Billy Hallup had some problems but straightened out and kept on acting and was in a couple TV series. Bobby Jordan, I'm not sure. I think he had problems, and he was a child actor to begin with and sort of couldn't get roles after a while because he had left the gang, and I don't know what the outcome was that. I don't think it was good. Gabriel Dell was doing regular acting gigs on and off, and did a little touring thing with Huntz Hall for a while, but I remember he had a TV show called Gabe's Place in the 70s. Bernard Punsley didn't continue acting and actually became a doctor. So, here's a bunch of stuff that sort of slipped through the cracks, and there's like 90 features to choose from, and they were in a shitload of, the early Warner Brothers films with Cagney and Bogart and some of those stars, so they're definitely worth checking out. Also, there's a nice documentary on Tubi where I grabbed some of this information from. You can check out the Bowery Boys, but, like I said, these guys deserve a look. They were funny, they were quirky, and like I said, if you're my age, a little younger, a little older, you kind of grew up with them too. So that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe. Stay home and watch a movie or something like that, and avoid the assholes. So until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.